Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the brutal capitalist dictatorship of Kuala Lumpur. I hope you're having an amazing day, because if you're having an amazing day, I'm having an amazing day. If I'm having an amazing day, you should also be having an amazing day. Alright, as you guys are aware, Malaysian elections are just around the corner. Polling starts this weekend on Saturday. And I suppose that you guys already know who you're going to vote for. Now, you know it's a given who I'm voting for, right? Because I'm with the Socialist Party of Malaysia, the PSM. So, well, you know who I'm voting for. But, I know some of you are going to be voting for Harapan, and that's absolutely fine. I myself voted for Harapan, in the previous general election, because between the choice of Hitler and Mussolini, it was obvious who would be the less repugnant of both candidates, right? Because we had to choose between Barisan Nasional, the National Socialists of Malaysia, and Harapan last election. But now that the socialists are competing, you actually have a choice to choose between three main parties. You can choose the Liberals, which are Harapan. You can choose the Socialists, the Party Socialist Malaysia, although admittedly we're a small party, but all small parties have to start somewhere, right? And of course you can choose the National Socialists called Perikatan Nasional. Oh yeah, I did say I was not going to vote shame anyone, right? I take that back. You can vote for Harapan, that's fine. You can vote for the Socialist Party, which would be preferable. But if you vote for Perikatan Nasional, I don't care what reason you give, you are a fascist, right? That is all. Very simple. Okay? So, as a rule, any Malaysian who has voted for Perikatan Nasional is a fascist. Simple. Okay? Now, without further ado, let's begin. Okay, wait. Before we start, no matter who you vote for, at the end of the day, we're all Malaysians, right? Whether you vote for the Socialists, whether you vote for Harapan, we're all friends in the end. Except if you vote for the far right-wing fascists in Perikatan Nasional, then you are not my friend. And you are not the friend of Malaysia as well, okay? Alright, let's begin. Right-wingers have always had a bee in their bonnet about abortion. Yes, the very same people who treat empathy and humanity as impractical and optional suddenly start appealing to the empathy and humanity of other people when they want to make their case against legalizing abortion. Yes, these people will beat their breasts in righteous indignation at the cold, callous women who would so brutally murder their unborn children, who force their unborn children to pay the price of their own bad decisions, who force these poor, pitiful little fetuses to suffer the punishment for their inability to keep their legs closed. Oh, what an atrocity of an astronomical scale it is indeed for one to so callously murder a living human being, say the right-wingers. In fact, these fellows are so pro-life, they will kill you in order to uphold the courage of their convictions. Quite literally. But I just find it ironic that the very same people who are pushing against giving children free lunches at school, because it's apparently their parents' responsibility to feed them, meaning that, they would rather a poor child starve in order for them to prove their point, and the very same people who are making healthcare astronomically expensive, right? So that, it's extremely unfriendly. Hospital care is extremely unfriendly to new mothers. And also the very same people who don't give a damn if you're homeless, as long as you don't creep into their neighborhoods, are suddenly professing to care about justice, empathy, and humanity. Now, it seems to me that the right-wingers' pro-life credentials become very questionable when you see that they don't really care about you after you're born. Isn't that right? They only seem to care about you for, I don't know, a period of 9 months or so. But after you're born, they quite literally couldn't give a damn about you. Really. You know, after you're born, your value to them is incumbent upon whether you can contribute to the reproduction of capital. If you cannot contribute to the reproduction of capital and you cannot help your capitalist overlord buy more private yachts and buy more private mansions, you are a worthless waste of space, according to these right-wingers. And you'd better be sent off as cannon fodder. They only seem to care about you for the first 9 months of your life. But as soon as you're born, you could be homeless, you could be cannon fodder for the army, and right-wingers really don't give a damn. Really. Yeah, so what is all this talk about empathy, compassion, and justice when it concerns the life of an unborn fetus, which does not even have consciousness, right? And when there are real children who suffer from deprivation, starvation, and really, really depressing material conditions, why does the right wing only seem to care about you before you actually get to that stage, right? Yeah, it seems to me just like the freedom of a right-winger is a useless kind of freedom. You know, the freedom to brandish a weapon openly in public, but not the freedom to dress how you like at work. You know, the concern that right-wingers show towards fetuses, unborn fetuses, seems to me to be, well, much ado about nothing. Well, let me correct myself. No, it's not much ado about nothing, you see, but it's not about concern for the human being that is the fetus, so to speak, right? But rather concern for their own reproduction of capital. Let me explain. You know, I was having a chat with my friend Ken, my really good friend Ken from New York. He will be commenting in the comments section under the title of Comrade Rice, right? Now, Ken is a wonderful man. He's an African-American chap from New York who hates America with every fiber of his being for good reason. But anyway, he's moving out of America, so I can quite honestly just tell you that he's no fan of America, and neither am I, quite frankly. Now, I love the American people, but I don't love America so much, okay? In order for the world to live, America's got to die. Not literally, but it has to undergo a metamorphosis, a spiritual transformation, if you will. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. Now, Ken and I have a lot of very, very interesting, enlivening discussions. Ken is also one of the few true American socialists, right? You'd think that American socialism was an oxymoron, but fortunately there are sane minds like Ken. So if you see his comment under Comrade Rice, do subscribe to his channel, guys. I hope that he starts making videos because I feel that he has a lot to share with the world, you know, based on his own experiences traveling around, right? But anyway, we were having a conversation the other day, and he said to me that the right wing doesn't really care about the lives of unborn fetuses. What they actually want is basically, you know, an excess of workers, a surplus of workers, if you will, you know, in order to fuel their capitalist machine, right? And so that was an excellent point that he made. He also said that, you know, it's also good to have a surplus of cannon fodder in order for the American empire to constantly expand, right? I mean, it's basically the purpose of wanting more babies to be born is because there will be more expendable people in order to, reproduce capital or basically invade foreign lands for patriotic reasons, of course, right? In short, the right wing's purported concern for the lives of unborn babies is really not humanistic, but in fact pragmatic. And in this video, I'll explain. In chapter 25 of his magnum opus Das Kapital, the German economist Karl Marx talks about a thing known as the reserve army of labor. Now, according to Karl Marx, capitalists actually depend on unemployment. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. Capitalists depend on unemployment, basically in the sense that there must always be what Marx terms a reserve army of labor, a group of people who are able-bodied yet unemployed. Now, how do these people serve the capitalist? Well, basically their function is to keep the workers working in the factory or the company or whatever on their toes, knowing full well that there are always going to be hungry, desperate people out there who are ready to take their jobs, right? So the capitalist therefore has more bargaining power over the workers, right? As Marx puts it, capital works on both sides at the same time. If its accumulation on the one hand increases the demand for labor, it increases on the other the supply of laborers by the so-called setting free of them, whilst at the same time the pressure of the unemployed compels those that are employed to furnish more labor, and therefore makes the supply of labor, to a certain extent, independent of the supply of laborers. The action of the law of supply and demand of labor on this basis completes the despotism of capital. So, in human language, this is essentially basically the capitalist saying to the workers, you better behave yourself, you better not cause any problems in my company, or you will be sacked because you are replaceable. There are at least a dozen people out there willing to take your job. So, make sure you behave and make sure you do as I say and work as long as I want and accept whatever terms I give you, basically. Marx also says, but if a surplus laboring population is a necessary product of accumulation or of the development of wealth on a capitalist basis, the surplus population becomes, conversely, the lever of capitalistic accumulation. Nay, a condition of existence of the capitalist mode of production. It forms a disposable industrial reserve army that belongs to capital quite as absolutely as if the latter had bread at its own cost, independently of the limits of the actual increase of population it creates for the changing needs of the self-expansion of capital, a mass of human material, always ready for exploitation. So while I do not want to sound Malthusian in this video, I really don't, I hope it's made clear how overpopulation and lack of contraceptives and proper family planning really do serve the capitalist in the end by creating a surplus population of able-bodied laborers in order to weaken the bargaining power of the workers, because there are so many of them, right? And make the capitalists, or rather give the capitalists more bargaining power, because there is a surplus of workers but only so many jobs to go around, right? And if you're wondering why Republicans and Democrats are so frightened about universal health care, right? At least Democrats don't
profess to care about humanity and empathy when the lives of unborn are concerned. But if you're wondering why right-wingers in America are so deathly afraid of universal healthcare, despite universal healthcare being the norm in most other civilized countries. In fact, America is not a civilized country, but universal healthcare is the norm in every civilized country, right? Including Israel. Israel also has universal healthcare, right? Ironic, because America donates billions of dollars to them a year. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that they are afraid of it not because it'll cost them more, but because healthcare is basically the carrot by which they control the masses, right? Healthcare is what keeps the masses toiling away at jobs they hate in order to literally pay for their essential good, the essential good of medical care without going bankrupt, right? Or another way to get healthcare is, guess what? By joining the American Army. That's why, despite the fact that many people will have very, very negative things to say about people in the American Army, right? Assuming that they're all vicious, cold-blooded murderers. I think that, the American Army would be far less popular, or rather, far fewer people would be joining the Army and participating in their foreign adventures if only there was universal healthcare, because you also get universal healthcare in the Army, right? So yeah, that's but basically the point of this video is to say that the right-wingers are basically bullshitters. They're all a bunch of bullshitters when they say they really, really care about people's lives. Because do they really care about the lives of occupied Palestinians who are being killed and brutalized by the Israeli regime? No. Do they care about the lives of the countries, of the people of the countries which America has bombed to smithereens? No. Do they care about the lives of people who do not have universal health care, yet have, really, really pressing medical conditions in their own country? No, they don't. Because it was never about concern for human life or humanity or empathy, no silly. It was about building up their reserve army of labor in order to safeguard their own capital. That's what it's all about, right? Yeah, whether it is Judeo-Christian right-wingers or Islamo-fascists of the Eastern countries, they are all concerned about the reproduction of capital. Yes, surprising, right? No, feudalism ended years ago, right? So even Eastern fascists who don't have anything to do with so-called degenerate Western values are also concerned about the expansion of their own capital, because you might be aware that feudalism ended around 100 or so years ago and was replaced by capitalism. Yeah, so even, fascists like Hadi Awang, he is essentially a capitalist, right? Zakir Naik is a fascist. He's an Eastern fascist. He's also a capitalist, right? You don't know how astronomically rich he is, right? Based on his grift. But basically, what happened was that the feudal reactionaries ended up matriculating into the capitalist class, basically. And although you can say that capitalism has brought a myriad of improvements, right? For example, the king can't just cut your head off if he's not happy with you. It has also not really improved, or rather it has not done away with social classes, right? And basically, yeah, when people talk about, the abortion banning or things like that, in Malaysia, abortion is illegal, unfortunately. We're trying to make it legal, we on the left, but it is legal under certain circumstances, right? Like if the mother's life is threatened, or if the mother feels that she is psychologically damaged as a result of the pregnancy, like if it was a rape, for example, then that would be legal, right? There are about 240 abortion clinics in total in Malaysia, so not many. But the fact is that this desire to ban abortion has got nothing to do with one's religion, right? It has nothing to do with valuing human life, because these very same far-right fundamentalist religious people, whether they are East or West, would be happy for their enemies' heads to be cut off if they could manage it, right? So I don't buy this concern about human rights. They're only doing it because they want a reserve army of labor to keep growing and growing and growing. Just to wrap up this video, I mean, it's really rich to hear right-wingers, especially right-wing Americans, who are essentially social Darwinists, who believe that only the deserving should be deserving of rights and people who are undeserving should starve and be homeless, suddenly turn around and start pretending to be so empathetic and humanistic when the lives of unborn fetuses are concerned. Don't buy that bullshit. That is not what they're concerned about, okay? They are primarily concerned about the reproduction of capital, the growth of capital and their own pockets. That is all. And that's all a human fetus is to them. Either cannon fodder or basically a worker drone, who can be replaced at any time, right? But no, they don't really care about you beyond that point. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. And remember, he who votes for fascists is a fascist. Thank you very much. And yes, selamat berjuang.